Hello, this is Newsgrass, and today we're going to be talking about Nord Stream pipeline damages in the Baltic Sea. We're going to review the facts, then the claims blaming different sides, and then we'll try to analyze who is gaining and losing the most from the damage to the gas pipelines. Here are the facts. Two, or rather both, major gas pipelines from Russia to Europe, Nord Stream 1 and 2, were damaged with explosions in the territorial waters of Denmark near island Bjørnholm. Pressure in the pipelines dropped and huge amounts of natural gas have escaped from underwater. Two explosions were registered by the Danish authorities, one after another and in some distance from each other, which allows everyone to conclude it was a deliberate act and whoever did it wanted to make sure it was clear to all it was an act of sabotage and not an accident. Although neither pipeline was in operation, they both still contained gas under pressure. After the explosions, the amount of natural gas that escaped the pipelines was dangerously large, with an estimate worth of over $500 million. Danish authorities restricted any flights and ship movements in the surrounding area to eliminate the possibility of an explosion. They also claimed it was not an environmental issue. Now, there are two main theories regarding which country's special operations has done it. First one is blaming Russia, although not many countries' officials and individuals are supporting it, but number one is Ukraine. Ukraine, of course, immediately called it a terrorist attack planned by Russia as an act of aggression towards European Union, and therefore the most immediate logical response by the EU and especially Germany should be increase of military support for Ukraine. My first thought was why I was not the first to say that, because when you read about any act of terror anywhere in the world, your first and only logical thought should be let's give more tanks to Ukraine, right? There are also Russian bloggers that blame Russia for that. Their arguments are pretty standard and nevertheless having some substance. They claim that this is Putin's tradition to destroy own structures and people. They recall such events as blowing up residential buildings in Moscow in the end of 90s as terrorist attacks, killing thousands in Chechen wars, killing hundreds of own citizens in the center of Moscow that were taken hostage, not saving their own submarine crew in the damaged nuclear submarine to hide nuclear secrets, maintain secretive department that's been working on poisoning its own citizens inside the country and abroad, and of course sending thousands of own citizens to the non-declared war. While all these events are terrible and valid arguments against Putin's government, in this particular case it seems more like an emotional expression of the overall exasperation. As a summary, for the theory of Russia at fault, it seems not many people believe or simply find serious reasons for Russia to blow up its own fully operational pipelines. The pipelines were not pumping gas. They were fully operational and fully controlled by Russia. So if you can turn them on and off at any time, why destroy them? They were ready to supply Europe with gas at any moment, not only to provide Russia with massive revenue, but help Europe to deal with natural gas shortage, especially for this winter. Winter that already started in Europe. The second theory blames USA and Britain. Particularly recalled speeches of President Biden, Victoria Nuland, and Condoleezza Rice. We'll listen to Condoleezza Rice that makes a very clear and a doubtful case in the end of this video. There are millions of views of Biden's and Nolan's speeches on Twitter dated February 22, when Biden clearly promised to bring an end to Nord Stream 2 in case of Russia invasion. A lot of people believe it is planned and executed by the US as retaliation and having commercial interest in it as well. There are some facts popping up, information about recent frequent visits by US and British military of the Bjornholm Island related to some military exercises. It shows screenshots of flight radar in the beginning of September with some military airplanes and Dutch, as in the Netherlands, Dutch Navy helicopters in the area, which indirectly suggests relation of NATO forces to the incident. Since this information is hard to confirm, it is only speculations for the moment. And as for political and commercial interests of US, the destroyed pipelines pretty much eliminate any chances for Europe to drop some of the sanctions on Russia if pressured by their own citizens and conditions of the economy. That eliminates any chances for Europe to renew contracts with Russia for natural gas to be supplied during this winter, which gives US an upper hand on supplying Europe with gas, controlling its political loyalty and controlling its energy market. It's well known that CNG, compressed natural gas supplied by the US to Europe, is sold 7 to 10 times the price of it in the US. What about the consequences? That's another story, as the matter is so complex that it will take a while to analyze. There are a lot of speculations again. As an example, it is not the confirmed information, but seems like Russia may move the location of its planned naval exercises off Irish coast to an area that is above vital subsea communication cables. We can call it power flexing, but potentially this could turn to the worst very quickly, especially if Russians gain confirmation of NATO countries' involvement, which in turn would constitute NATO attack on Russia and any further events you may imagine yourself. And to make a good end of this video, now let's listen to Condoleezza Rice. She gave this interview in 2014 and very clearly explains US interests. Goodbye.
But now we need to have tougher sanctions, and I'm afraid at some point this is going to probably have to involve oil and gas. The Russian economy is vulnerable. 80% of Russian exports are in oil, gas, and minerals. People say, well, the Europeans will run out of energy. Well, the Russians will run out of cash before the Europeans run out of energy. And I understand that it's uncomfortable to have an effect on business ties in this way. But this is one of the few instruments that we have. Over the long run, you simply want to change the structure of energy dependence. You want to depend more on the North American energy platform, the tremendous bounty of oil and gas that we're finding in North America. You want to have pipelines that don't go through Ukraine and Russia. For years, we've tried to get the Europeans to be interested in different pipeline routes. It's time to do that.